All right. Welcome to Chai and Chat presented by Taskeen Wellness with Zainab and Dr. Sarosh. In this episode, I'll be sharing my experiences as a recent university graduate, discussing the challenges I faced and offering practical tips for students on balancing their mental health with academic success. Now I'll pass it off to Dr. Sarosh to get us started.
Thank you, Sanab. Thank you for doing this for us because it's so important for youth to have this knowledge and, during their university years, college years, post-secondary. So one of the things I was wondering about was how 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 long ago was your journey into university? If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went into university in 2020. So I went to the University of Toronto. I was in the life sciences stream doing health and disease, and then I minored in immunology and English. So it was a lot of med-based courses, a lot of research-based courses during my time.
So, I mean, that's two things that strike me about that is life sciences is really demanding,
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
right? And then it was the pandemic.
Yeah, I did 2 years during the pandemic, so I wasn't on campus for 2 years.
Okay.
Mm.
So that's another challenge in itself, right? That brought special challenges.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we can talk about that a little bit as well. But in general, what were some highlights, some good points of your journey in university?
There were a lot of great points in university. I feel like when you're in university, you build you build up so much adaptability and resilience. You learn so much more about yourself as a person, and you're able to connect with so many people. At U of T, it's a pretty big school. There's lots of different kinds of people to meet, and you learn so much from your professors as well. So you get a really enriched education just being at university. Of course, it comes with its challenges, but it really is a lot of fun, and you do feel proud of yourself at the end of it for being
Mhm.
able to get through it.
That's amazing. So when the 2 years that you were from home, uh, that's so just two very different experiences, right? 2 years from home and 2 years on. Were you fully on campus, or were you going there daily and coming back?
Yeah, so my first 2 years were exclusively online. So I didn't go to campus at all. I think in my second year, I went once for a couple of quizzes that were really important. But besides that, I hadn't stepped foot on campus like fully until my third year of
Mhm.
university. So it felt like first year in my third year.
Mhm. So how was your schedule during the whole of university? Because it is a demanding, your major was very demanding, as it is university is demanding. So what were some of the challenges you faced in keeping the schedule, your work schedule, your home schedule?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So in the COVID years, in my first and second year, it was really hard to keep a consistent schedule because you're at home and your classes are online. You just wake up whenever sometimes. And that's the reality of it. Sometimes you're not able to keep a great sleep schedule. And I found out that this was really bad later on, and try to fix it. But in those 2 years, I'd be falling asleep in my Zoom lectures.
Mhm.
Like, it was really difficult to keep
Mhm.
track. And you're also inside the entire time, so that has a huge impact on your mental health. You just feel tired, you're getting no sunlight. You try your best to eat right, but
Mhm.
especially during the stress of first and second year, it's a lot more stressful than third and fourth year,
Mhm.
just because you're trying to adapt to university. So you're eating out all the time just for comfort. And then this really affects you too because you don't feel as good, you're not sleeping well. Um, so that's when I got into my third and fourth year, that's when I really started to make a change in my life, and I couldn't keep going like this because it was starting to affect um my mental health. I didn't feel good.
Mhm. So that you've brought up some really important points, the keeping a regular eating schedule, healthy eating. I wondered about, your sleep schedule. And how did you manage that? It's because some of the classes or work probably kept people up for a longer time, right? Or kept you up for a longer time. I don't know, like a lot of young people stay up late and their sleep cycle reverses.
Yeah.
I wonder about that.
Yeah, so what I did in my third and fourth year is I really tried to schedule out my time in a Google Calendar. So where I had later classes, I would try to review my notes right away, so that I didn't have to stay up in the night or stay up later tomorrow and do it. So a Google Calendar was really helpful for me. And that's something I started doing, I feel like a little bit too late into my university journey, but that was really helpful, blocking out that time to do my work so that I was able to catch up on hours of sleep. Even if I had to stay up one night, I would be able to sleep earlier the next night.
Oh, that's really helpful.
Mm.
That's a really good tip. And how did you keep yourself organized with the work? Like a lot of people really struggle with the workload, and that really makes them feel overwhelmed, and that affects their mental health.
Yeah, it's really hard to stay on top of things when there's a lot on your plate. And I feel like it gets easier as you go through the years of university. You really do realize how adaptable you become. I think one of the things that helped me the most was um, speaking positively to myself, and also creating like a to-do list every day, and not forcing myself to get everything done on that to-do list, but being proud of what I did get done at that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, a really good point. Positive self-talk, and not getting bogged down with if things didn't get done, but saying, probably being compassionate to yourself,
Yeah,
making
absolutely.
when you do get to things, rewarding yourself a little bit. Those are really, really important. And
Yeah. It's really easy in first and second year to get bogged down by the grade you're gonna get and feel like you're a failure or that you didn't do well or that you haven't been trying enough. Because a lot of people in my program are gunning for med school, so every percent counts. Um,
yeah.
so you put a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself to,
Mhm.
and I feel like when you do that, you actually don't perform as well because you're putting this tremendous amount of pressure on yourself to the point that you black out on exams. So I found that when I was actively kinder to myself and watching how I thought about myself, that I actually started doing better in school. Um,
Wow, those are such important points. And that also means you have to be self-aware and reflect on how you're feeling rather than just not paying any attention to your thoughts, right? So you sound like you are paying attention to your thoughts. Not everybody takes the time to even do that, and it is so important to be able to do that.
Yeah, it really is. Even just practicing gratitude for the small things you're grateful for. Like sometimes when I'm studying, my mom would bring me chai, and even like that, I was so grateful for because it's just such a sweet gesture. So
Mm.
like that, I try to appreciate in my day, and it made me realize like my entire life is not just school. I'm also a human being, and I have all these other things that I'm grateful for. Um,
Wow, that is so profound and so small, but so profound, right? To appreciate the small things, which then brings more goodness towards us, right? So the gratitude, acknowledging that and having that is so important.
yeah,
How did you manage the social aspect of university?
absolutely.
Um, that some people, can do too much of that, and then they're struggling with schoolwork, and then that might affect their mental health as well. And there needs to be some balance, but it's also important that people socialize.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's always like two extremes. You'll find people who are really, really social, but their grades might suffer. And then people who don't interact with a lot of people at all. I feel like COVID especially was very isolating. And so in my third and fourth year, I really tried to strike conversation with people who were next to me about, say, like what the assignment was about, if the assignment was hard or not, like how they find the assignment. And that way I was able to make some friends and just establish good rapport. Yeah.
Right? Because some people would say, well, it's so awkward. I've never seen them. I'm just seeing them on a screen. I'm not going to say anything, right? I've heard those kind of things because some people feel very, very awkward. But what I'm hearing you say is even asking, because probably they're feeling the same way,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ask few questions, then it breaks the ice.
100%. 100%. I found that when people bond over, say, how hard an assignment was or anything like that, it really opens people up. And also I've also realized that people aren't judging you as much as you're judging yourself. So no one's like after the call's over or the Zoom call's over or the class is over, they're not going to be dissecting the convo, and neither will you be.
That's I think that's a good point that we dissect ourselves more than other people
Yeah.
that dissect us, right? We're going to look at everything in a minute way and then be hard on ourselves. But that goes back to your earlier point of being kind to yourself and being thankful for what you have, that you're making a connection with someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like all of these things really helped me because at the end of my degree, um, I, especially in the last 2 years, I made it on the dean's list for those 2 years. So
Uh,
it really does show that like being kind to yourself is
um,
like, being too hard on yourself does not always help you. Um,
that that's so good. The connection you're making. I mean, it's such a small thing and hard to do, but once you do it, you're seeing the reward come out. It
mm,
out.
absolutely.
How about you know, the struggle between, we hear so much now that too much being on screens is so bad for our mental health and it affects our sleep and the blue light. Yet, a lot of the work, almost, I mean, everything is online.
Yeah.
So how to balance that? Because it all, how people are, going to sleep on time, or they're not getting up and actually physically socializing. Like socializing sometimes is just online. So how did you manage that?
Yeah, so in the first 2 years of my university journey, I used to scroll a lot after I was done assignments because it was relaxing. It was like a way to unwind. But then I found that I wasn't really relaxed. I was almost doom scrolling. So I'd see something on social media and it completely ruined my day, or I dissect it to the point that I'd apply it to myself in negative ways. So what I did in my last 2 years is give myself like say like an hour, but not more than 2 hours before bed, 3 hours before bed, um, to go on my phone, and then I cut myself off. I'd be like, that's enough. And I just talk to my mom or I talk to my brothers and I just go to sleep that way.
Wow, takes so much willpower, but it actually goes with the medical piece too, that you have to cut off screen time a couple of hours before bedtime, because otherwise you're all revved up and you can't fall asleep.
Yeah, I do a countdown. I'd go 3, 2, 1, and then no matter what I'm thinking, I just shut it off.
Did you use any meditation or apps or anything to help yourself with some of the mental health piece, or not really?
Not really. I used to do something called somatic exercises. It's just a way to de-stress, especially when you're anxious. I found like a lot of university students are very, very anxious about their future, about how they're doing, what they're gonna do in life, what they're gonna do after they graduate. So I do a lot of somatic exercises, less than meditation, because I didn't find that meditation helped me as much as doing those exercises.
Do you mind going into a little bit of what it is?
Yeah, so it's just a way to regulate anxiety. So, for example, if you put your hands on either side of your chest and you start tapping in soothing motions, it just helps you to relax. So, like bilateral stimulation, I found that that really helps. And there's like a lot of tutorials and videos on YouTube. There's a whole series by John Hopkins that really, really helped me. And you can find it anywhere if you just typed in John Hopkins somatic exercises. Those really helped me a lot.
Really, really good because in my work, exactly bilateral stimulation is so helpful for helping the person calm down and de-stress and also for traumatic memories as well, right? And some little things can be traumatic.
Yeah, yeah, they really can be. I remember I was doing really well in my fourth year of university. Um, the best I've ever done out of all my years. And then in my second semester, my mom had to go to the hospital and I wasn't at home anymore. I was living somewhere else. So I was struck with a lot of change and trying to finish my last semester on a good note as well, with all this stress sort of happening. So learning how to manage that stress and to um, not blame myself for things was really important. That's where the somatic exercises really, really played a role in just calming
That
down.
but and not everybody, like you make a really good point that not everybody is does well with the meditation bit, and so this is another way of really going through it. And I hope your mom did well after that. That's so stressful when you're in that stage if a parent is not is sick or something.
Yeah, yeah, she's doing really well now. So yeah, and yeah,
What about I think in the few time that we have remaining, I didn't know, I don't think we touched upon, the eating part of how when people are not at home and their parents are not making the meals and it's up to them to get their meals. And even if during COVID, I found, if some parents were out working and if the young person is at home doing university courses, they're on their own. And so the choices they make, that's also very important. So how did you manage that?
yeah. So I was fortunate enough to live with my parents for most of the time that I was in university. Um, but I would say for my friends who lived on residence, what they did is that they'd cook with their friends. So they'd invite all their friends over and they'd cook rather than eat out. Or my friends were really responsible in that they created a meal plan for themselves and then bought according to that meal plan. Um,
Wow,
yeah,
pretty good. So incorporating healthy options.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe you can speak a little bit because you mentioned that in the opening part that because you weren't sometimes eating as well, it affected your mental health. What kind of choices were you making in the eating part?
Yeah, so sometimes when you're anxious, you feel like stress eating and you want something convenient and something that's instantly gratifying in the moment. So I'd Uber Eats a lot. It was a huge waste of money. And I found that I was a lot more anxious during that time of my life. And then I realized that I needed to cut back at some point. Um,
I mean, food is medicine, and there's a connection with the gut and the brain, right? So if our gut is messed up with the crappy food that we're eating, then our mental health is going to be directly affected. Right? Really, really good point.
when I
That brain.
fourth year, I started eating a lot better and I felt so much better about life. I felt I was thinking better. There was no more brain fog. I struggled a lot with brain fog in my first and second year because I was eating so badly. So,
Mm,
yeah,
really.
yeah. I would say that anyone, if you're struggling with brain fog, clearing up your diet would really help.
And the last part about sleep, I think we briefly touched upon that. It's so important. How many hours were you getting and uh, feeling good? And everybody's different, but I did want to point that out. And so, how are you managing that?
Yeah, so of course, when you're in university, you might be sleeping less on some days. So, say for example, during midterm weeks or final weeks, I might be averaging 3 or 4 hours a day, but then always before the night before, I try to aim for 7 to 8 hours. Um, but in my third and fourth year, I really was focused on scheduling. So a lot of studies show that women need more sleep.
Mm.
So I try to get around 8 to 9 hours um in my last 2 years, as much as I could.
Okay. And what differences did you see?
I thought a lot clearer. I always struggled with brain fog, so the clean eating and the sleeping really, really helped me think more positively, and even just do better in school overall. So
Okay, that's amazing. Though you made some really important links with these, mental having good mental health is having good health, right? So and just basic things like sleep and eating and screen time, all of those, and socializing appropriately, right? And building a community. I don't know if we talked more about that, but how did you, I know you talked to people during screen, when you were there, but how important it is to have a support network.
yeah, it's absolutely vital. And it can be really hard, for example, if you're living on residence too, because you're away from your parents, you're away from your family. But what I found is just being genuine with people, talking genuinely, not trying to force a connection, but just trying to listen to the other person. A lot of the times we're often caught up with speaking our own story or trying to feel heard. But when we hear other people out, they're also willing to hear us out, and that's how genuine connections are made. And that's how I also formed a support system in university myself. It's just being genuine, not trying to force anything. And of course, not everyone's gonna want to be your friend, right? So
Yeah,
being able to accept that it's not a personal thing. It's just like people have different things they're going through, different focuses in life, and you just need to keep moving.
that's so important. Not taking things personally, and not everything is meant to be a rejection, but it's what we tell ourselves,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
You wanted to mention?
Pardon?
Okay. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to mention?
I think that covers everything.
Well, thank you so much for this important topic. How to keep your stress level low, and therefore your mental health uh, healthy during university, college years, because it's a very stressful time. And Zainab, thank you for all your insight. So,
Sure. Thank you. It was so nice chatting with you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of Chai and Chat. I hope that Dr. Sarosh and I were able to give you good tips today. And remember, prioritizing your mental health is just as important as your academic success. I promise. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on any topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Join us next time for more conversations over chai.